Jim Shannon to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to that this House has considered innovation in the field of rare retinal disease. I so move. Can I say, first of all, to you, Dame Siobhan, it's a real pleasure to serve under your chairship. I very much look forward to the contributions of the Shadow Minister for the Lib Dems in particular. I think his contribution will be a personal one, and I think it's important for this debate. Also very pleased to see the Shadow Minister in his place, and look forward to his contribution, and the Minister in particular. Pleased to see the Minister there. I have asked I've given both the Shadow Minister and the Minister my speech with my highlighted comments, which are the requests. So I appreciate that very much. To those who have come along today, my friend, the Honourable Member for Leicester East. South, there you are, almost. I've got the right time, but the wrong direction. And the Honourable Member for Doncaster for coming along as well. This is when I asked for this debate in the Backbench Committee, I want to thank them for it. I'm aware that this is a niche debate. It's a niche debate because there's only 25,000 people across this great United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland who suffer from this. But this debate affects 25,000 people, affects 25,000 families, and therefore, as one who has tried to promote rare diseases on every occasion I could, I ask for the debate, and the members who are here today are those who have a particular interest. As aware of glasses, as I have been from the young age of 8 years old, that wasn't yesterday. I'm very thankful that the issues with my eyes are easily diagnosed and indeed treated as well. My annual appointment with Mackey's Opticians keeps me right in Newton Aird. Indeed, it was with their help that I realised I had type 2 diabetes, which means that when it comes to eyesight issues with diabetes, you have to really be a wee bit more careful. I remember going to an event one time, Dame Siobhan, and it was I think in Cambridge it was and we got my eyes tested, or one of the new machines that they had. Anyway, the guy came up and he says to me, he says, Jim, when was the last time you had your eyes tested? And I said, I get it done every year. He says, well, here's my readout, take it back to your optician. So I took it back. So I thought it was a glaucoma. And since my dad had something like that there, I was rather worried. I was probably a wee bit perturbed because obviously I'd been to my opticians a few months before that, and I wasn't aware of anything. And cut it short, I then went and to my optician. She says, Jim, I haven't noticed it, but do you want to do the big test? So we did the big test up in Belfast, and they did everything that they could probably do with your eyes, and thank goodness I didn't have it. But the point I'm making is, it is really important that eyes are tested regularly. There's a well-known saying that eyes are the window to the soul, and so they are, but they're also an indication of overall health, and therefore eye care is as vital as any other part of our national health. Honourable Member for the Lib Dems, myself, we were just talking beforehand there, and Chris McCausland, who did Strictly Come Dancing, he has one of these rare retinal diseases, and look what that man can do. And I mean, sense of humour, a comedian, but his talent, I mean, he was around that floor better than someone who had full eyesight, but he was able to do it and inspire us all, inspire this nation, and he rightly won the Strictly Come Dancing as well. Although rare diseases are individually rare, they are collectively common, with 1 in 17 people being affected by a rare disease at some point in their lives. In the UK, this equates to approximately 3.5 million people and 110,000 people in Northern Ireland with rare diseases. I've been interested in rare diseases. It was back, Dame Siobhan, back to the Assembly where I served for 12 years before coming here. This debate today will focus on a niche rare disease, and will focus specifically on rare diseases relating to retinal diseases that lead to sight loss. Inherited retinal dystrophies, or IRDSs as they call them, is a collective term used to describe inherited sight loss conditions that occur when cells in the retina deteriorate in an unpredictable way. And it's really important. I'm going to mention about research and development, because that's really important as well. They are the most common cause of blindness in children and working age people in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Although the conditions are rare, with some 25,000 people affected in the UK and 600 in Northern Ireland. Some of them are my constituents, so that's why I brought forward the debate as well. The impact on the people living with these conditions is significant. Sight loss at any stage Many people I've spoken to, I've always asked them, of all the senses that they wouldn't want to lose, the one that they always see, everyone says, is to lose their sight. Because that's the eyes to the world, the eyes to your soul, the eyes, at least you're able to appreciate what happens around. And while other loss of other senses are very important as well, at least with sight, you lose the ability to know what's happening around you, and it's almost in its entirety. People living with rare retinal conditions not only face challenges in their day-to-day life due to sight loss, but they also experience the added challenge of living with a rare condition and the impact it has upon them and indeed upon their families. This includes delays in complexity in getting a diagnosis, and maybe I know the Minister is always happy to respond in a positive way, and I look forward very much to your comments at the end. How we can hurry up the process, or make the process more seemingly easy for those who, when it comes to getting a diagnosis, challenges in accessing treatment and specialist care, and a lack of awareness of these conditions. Dame Siobhan, 95% of rare diseases currently lack an approved treatment, and the existing standard of care for rare retinal diseases is equally very limited, meaning there's a high unmet clinical need. When I go on to at the end, when I referred to the NICE process, and they're going to be my major requests in relation to this debate, and others will add their contribution as well. The dual-pronged burden facing patients with rare retinal disease means supporting access to new innovations that can improve the diagnosis, the treatment and the care for these conditions, and that should be a priority for the government and the relevant agencies. Sight is the most valued, the most important sense amongst adults in the UK, with 88% of people ranking sight, this gives you an idea of the comments I made earlier on, 88% of people saying sight as their most valuable sense in a recent study published by the JAMA Ophthalmology. According to a report by Deloitte, the estimated total cost of IRDS in the UK is some 523.3 million. That's a massive total of money, but it does perhaps maybe indicate the importance of this debate today. This includes well-being costs of 196 million as well, and total economic costs of 327.2 million, of which productivity costs, which affect those who are working age, 114.1, and informal care costs as well of 84.5. So the stats, I believe, back up the necessity, Dame Siobhan, for this debate today, and the importance of having it at least registered in Westminster Hall, and having a governmental stance and a ministerial stance and a ministerial response to where we are. New innovations that represent a step change in the standard of care for people living with rare retinal diseases are on the horizon, and that we have to be prepared. At the centre of this is a shift towards personalised medicine, made possible by recent advances in cell and gene therapies, a transformative class of medicines described by the Minister of State for Science, Research and Innovation, Sir Patrick Vallance, as a new era of cures. We hope very much that that's where we're going. CGTs are highly specialised types of treatment that aim to treat the root cause of diseases and disorders by augmenting, repairing, by replacing or regenerating organs, tissues, cells, genes and metabolic processes in the body. Often one-off treatments, they can deliver potential benefits over the course of the patient's whole lifetime, and therefore represent a step change in how we treat disease. And in the middle of this process, as often as the person who has this disease, this retinal disease, is the families who live close by to them, and they experience all the angst that comes off that as well. Access to new innovations and treatments for rare diseases, termed orphan medicines, is a challenge across all healthcare systems. Smaller patient populations, along with complex and difficult diagnosis, can mean the cost of developing new treatments is higher compared to treatments for more common diseases, and there can be more uncertainty in the evidence base generated from clinical trials. In a study and social attitudes to rare diseases, 82% of participants felt that NICE should evaluate the cost effectiveness of treatments for rare diseases differently than for more common diseases. And that's one of my requests to the Minister as well in relation to taking into account the additional challenges in developing medicines for rare diseases. That's looking at rare diseases overall, of course. It is therefore vital, I believe, that the regulatory or assessment bodies factor in these considerations when making decisions or whether to approve new treatments or new innovations for rare retinal diseases. In England, the assessment body for medicines, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, has 2 medicines appraisal pathways, and this is one of my asks, if I can, and I'll try to develop the argument. The standard technology appraisal, the STA pathway, and then the highly specialised technology pathway. And this is perhaps the central core issue of this debate today. In Northern Ireland, the Department of Health considers and endorses technology appraisals undertaken by NICE. But whenever the NICE approvals are here, the Northern Ireland Assembly and the Health Department in Northern Ireland, they follow the indications and the directive of what happens. So whatever happens here comes to us. So this debate, when I'm asking the Minister here for England, we will be the benefactors of the NICE recommendations in Northern Ireland. So it's really important for this debate, for myself personally, as a Minister, the DUP's health spokesperson here, but also representing the constituency in Northern Ireland where health is the devolved matter. Treatments for very rare diseases have traditionally struggled to get approval from NICE when routed through the standard technology appraisal pathway, which is not designed, I believe, to factor in the additional uncertainty associated with rare disease treatments. So we have a big ask, Minister, in relation to that. It is therefore vital that the higher appraisal process pathway can enable timely patient access to treatments for rare diseases. NICE is currently conducting a review of its HST programme criteria for determining which treatments are assessed by the HST pathway. The aims of the review are to ensure more consistent, more predictable and transparent decisions to be welcomed. But there are concerns, however, there definitely are concerns, that the refinements proposed by NICE in their consultation may in fact narrow the number of future treatments eligible for the HST pathway routing and ultimately risk patient access to future treatments for rare retinal disease. I'll have 3 or 4 asks at the end, but that's going to be one of the key ones. So this would conflict ambitions set out in Priority 4 of the Government's 2024 Rare Disease Action Plan for improved access to specialist care for treatment of drugs, and in particular for retinal disease today. Of particular concern are the thresholds being proposed under Criteria 1 and 3. Criteria 1, the disease is ultra-rare and debilitating. That is defined as having a point prevalence of 50,000 or less in England. The routing criteria 3 is no more than 300 people in England are eligible for the technology for its licence indication, and the technology is not an individualised medicine. So those changes, tightening the criteria for HST routing, would force more new and innovative treatments for rare retinal disease, as well as other rare diseases, to be assessed via the STA pathway. To be approved via the STA pathway, of course, treatments are required to meet a significantly lower incremental cost-effectiveness ratio, ICER, threshold, which is often not possible for many treatments for rare diseases. And as a result, innovations may not be approved by NICE for routine use in the NHS. So that's the question mark that I'm posing in relation to that. And I know the Minister always tries in debates. It's always, I'm very pleased to see the Minister in her place. It's usually the Minister that answers my queries and debates in this House nearly all the time. People living with retinal disease, carers and clinicians all highlight slowing down the progression of disease or reversing, if possible, sight loss as a top priority for future treatments for IRDs. And delays in access to treatment may result in further disease progression and the deterioration of sight. Solutions to improve diagnosis, treatment and the care for people living with rare retinal diseases To address the concerns regarding the proposed refinements to the NICE HST criteria, I'd like to ask, if I can please, what discussions has the Department of Health and Social Care and the Ministers had with NICE on the potential impact of changes to the HST criteria on people living with rare retinal diseases and seek opportunities for appropriate flexibility. I'd also ask the Minister in the Department of Health and Social Care as well, in the absence of any meaningful change to the HST criteria, that the Minister would commit to exploring a potential third way. It's always good to have a third way for technologies that do not meet the criteria for HST and have a low likelihood of positive recommendations under the STA. More broadly, to support people living with rare retinal diseases, the Government's UK Rare Disease Framework and the corresponding annual action plans have been incredibly important in providing coordinated action against the 4 areas of, and I name them, helping patients to get a final diagnosis faster, increasing the awareness of rare diseases amongst healthcare professionals for those who maybe aren't skilled or don't have the training that they need to have, bettering coordination of care, and lastly improving access to specialist care, to treatment and drugs. So 4 asks in relation to that. The momentum of the framework and the action plans must continue to deliver improvements for people living with rare diseases, including rare retinal diseases, in particular to what this debate is clearly all about. The current framework is due to come to an end in 2016. So again, Minister, the ask will be, after 2026, what happens? And we're hoping that there will be a clear action plan for that. And just to say that I'm very pleased that this government has taken the decision, to spend £26 billion in the NHS. It shows our commitment to addressing one of the key issues, and it is right. It is right. We all welcome that commitment by government in relation to that. And does government plan to publish a new rare disease framework in 2026? Will the government include access to rare disease medicines as a central pillar of the next framework, and keep the issues relating to NICE appraisal of rare diseases and treatments under an ongoing review, so that those suffering with these conditions can access effective treatments? Retina UK is a charity celebrating their 50th anniversary, and who have provided me with some background of the current situation in which we find ourselves. I'm putting right my thanks to them for all of the information that they made available. I think probably for all of us today who are taking part in this debate. 54% of respondents to Retina's UK 2022 sight loss survey are aware of research into their condition. 20% have participated in this research, and 31% of respondents can now name the gene causing their condition, a significant improvement from 15% in 2019, and that I think is positive in the right direction, reflecting, I believe, better genetic diagnosis and education. However, unmet demand for genetic testing and counselling persists, emphasising the need for increased funding and accessibility. Something that struck me about the cause of rare retinal diseases is that 93% of respondents to the survey reported experiencing anxiety, stress or loss of confidence due to sight loss, but only 16% have accessed mental health support. And as so happens, when you've got a very difficult disease, retinal disease in particular, there's a level of anxiety, a level of depression, of angst, of stress that takes place. And while resources like Discover Wellbeing offer tailored psychological support and strategies to improve resilience and quality of life, it is clear that more support needs to be offered, and perhaps our GP surgeries, as an example, could be given more information to signpoint their constituents or their clients to our constituents and their clients, the greater support that should be available as they navigate their life journey in a completely different way. However, it must also be noted that surveyed respondents prioritise funding research into treatments, 56%, over providing support services, 23%, or raising social awareness, 21%. Improved genetic testing services and counselling are crucial to enhancing patient care and enabling clinical trial participation. 39% of respondents have experienced sight loss-related accidents during requiring medical attention. So policies promoting access to mobility aids and rehabilitation services are obviously urgently needed as well. I think I've just got the bell to tell me and time's coming to an end. So I thank that reminder. I'm on my last page. James Siobhan. In conclusion, continued investment in research and infrastructure and inclusive technology will drive significant improvements in the lives of individuals with IRDs. But this all takes commitment from the Minister and from Government and from this House to increase funding for research, number one, support funding initiatives for genetic testing for clinical trials and treatment innovation for rare retinal diseases. We must also promote accessibility, enhance the programmes that provide the assistive technologies, the mobility aids and accessible information to individuals with sight loss. Thirdly, we must also expand health services, and fourthly, advocate for early diagnosis and counselling. This is a number of requests, but I believe they are positive, and I do hope that in the response from the Minister and from my government as well, that we can find a way forward to help those with retinal diseases. I believe we must seek to deliver in a more effective way, and I believe this debate today is the first step in taking it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I remind members that they should bob if they wish to be called in the debate. But having seen those bobbing, I just want to clarify for the Chamber today that the order in which I will take people is HoC Adam, followed by the Liberal Democrat spokesperson Steve Darling, followed by the opposition spokesperson Ed Arger, and followed by the Minister Karen Smith. HoC Adam.
Thank you. Can I just say what a pleasure it is to serve under your chairship, Dame Siobhan. During my time here, I've been writing 5, 6, 7-minute speeches for Westminster Hall. And by the time I get there, the chair always tells me I've got a minute. So I only wrote a minute speech, but the right honourable member
Go on as long as you like.
Stanford told me do what I do and expand it over. But to be fair, this is an extremely important, and I'm so grateful for the honourable member for bringing this speech, for bringing this subject matter to the Chamber. Imagine, if you will, a mother-to-be sitting on a consulting room chair whose excitement of becoming a mother has been overshadowed by the news that she has been diagnosed with Stargardt's disease. And it's literally a race against time. Will the child be born, or will the sight be lost? Or a young boy who has expressed his ambitions of becoming a rugby player for England, only for a cursory investigation at the back of the eye to detect retinitis pigmentosa. Unfortunately for me, as an optometrist, that was my reality. They are heartbreaking, and I face this on a regular basis in my profession. Rare retinal diseases like retinitis pigmentosa, Stargardt's disease, and Leber's congenital amaurosis, amongst many others, are rare. The issue is that they are individually rare, but collectively very, very significant. And they devastate and destroy lives. The honourable member for Strangford mentioned the victor of Strictly Come Dancing, Chris. He is the potential that majority of people with sight loss can reach, but unfortunately it's not the reality for most. Their lives are destroyed, their independence is taken, and opportunities at work is limited. The UK government has committed to tackling these rare diseases through initiatives like the UK Rare Diseases Framework, which aims to improve diagnosis, raise awareness, and enhance accessibility to specialist care. Additionally, a new action plan is set to release in 2025, showing promises for further progress. But commitments need to translate into tangible action. Furthermore, we need regulatory bodies like the National Institute of Clinical Excellence, NICE, to play a pivotal role. We and I fully appreciate that NICE's work is ensuring the quality and safety of treatments can never ever be compromised. These principles are non-negotiable. However, to encourage innovation, NICE must proactively engage, in my opinion, with pharmaceutical and medical companies, working collaboratively to establish best practices. This dialogue will signal to companies that their commitment to research researching rare diseases, which cost millions, will be met with the potential for reward, ensuring that patients can benefit from cutting-edge advancements without delay. Because short-term investments in research and treatment for rare retinal diseases will deliver long-term financial benefits, as already mentioned by the Honourable Member, to the tune of £600 million, and also reducing lifelong healthcare costs and empowering patients to live independently, productive lives. The eyes are indeed the window of the soul, but they're also the window to your health. So many health conditions are found and detected in the eyes, and these rare retinal conditions can lead to other health conditions that can be detected earlier, like Beckett's disease and so many others. We are now, thankfully, on the brink of transformative breakthroughs. Gene therapies like Luxturna, which is, I think, a virus vector-force medication. AI-driven early detection and advancement, especially in stem cell research, offers real hope. By supporting these innovations with funding and adaptable regulations, we can bring life-changing treatments to those who need it most. This is not just about health. It's about equity and humanity. Without action, we will condemn families to live in the shadow of irreversible loss, because when you have somebody with sight loss, it affects the whole family. With action, we can rewrite their stories, giving them hope and vision. So let us act now for that mother and for that young boy and the thousands and thousands like them. Sight is not a privilege, it is a right. Thank you.
Steve Darling.
Thank you, Dame Siobhan McDonough, and it is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And I'd like to congratulate the member for Strangford for obtaining this debate. My colleague rightly highlighted the inspirational character that we saw a few weeks ago with Chris McCausland winning Strictly Come Dancing. And there were 3 words that he shared at the end of that journey. One was opportunity, support was the second, and the third one was determination. And I think those play out well with the challenges that we face here today that have been unpacked extremely well by my 2 colleagues who participated so far in the debate. I'd also like to reflect with the Chamber an event last night where there was the APPG Eye Health group, where a gentleman who has retinitis pigmentosa shared with us that when he was diagnosed at the age of 8, his mother was taken aside and told, this child at a certain age should be sterilised. That's the best way of sorting out this condition. And that is absolutely horrific. And I'm heartened that probably a little under 50 years beyond that, when that diagnosis was given, the world has moved on. And I received a diagnosis probably about 45 years ago now of my visual impairment, as I suffer from Stargardt's disease, that is one of the 2 significant areas of these rare inherited conditions. And I was deeply upset as a young lad, mostly because I wasn't able to be a lorry driver. And I idolised my father, and that was my aspiration, was to be a lorry driver. And it has this significant impact on people's ability to fulfil their aspirations, as colleagues have already highlighted in the debate so far. But also, it isn't just about your aspirations, it's the opportunities that it impacts on. We are looking at 25,000 people across the United Kingdom who are hit by this. When you look at the profile of people who are registered blind, 75% of those people are sadly unemployed. So we are condemning people effectively of drawing a lottery from life, and they're more likely to be very much more likely to be unemployed than the next person in their community. And then we reflect on the cost of this. And the cost that I've discovered is £500 million a year in a number of different pots. So this is also, it isn't just the cost of the medical intervention one should be alive to, it's the costs to society of supporting that individual with conditions such as this. And 95% of these hereditary conditions are untreatable until potentially in the not too distant future. And it has been really laid out by the member from Strangford about the challenges that NICE have. And the perverse situation that we're in at the moment is the current place that we're at is that it could almost be an anti-Goldilocks situation where one falls between two stools, that you have a rare disease, but it's a relatively common rare disease, so therefore it doesn't fit within the ultra-rare criteria, and you fall between these two stools. So I hope the Minister will give serious consideration, particularly to these two conditions, retinitis pigmentosa and Stargardt's, where significant numbers of people will be impacted by falling between these two stools. And I would reflect again on the words of Chris McCausland: give us opportunity, support and determination. Thank you.
Ed Arco.
Thank you very much, Dame Siobhan. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship and indeed to be under your chairmanship debating a health matter. We've spoken many times in the past about health issues, so it's a pleasure to serve under you. And of course I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman, I like to call him my honourable friend, for bringing this debate to the Chamber today, and I'm equally very grateful for the opportunity to serve opposite the Minister of State. She and I on many occasions in the past have served opposite one another, on occasions with me that side and her this side, but I'm getting used to this state of affairs now with me on this side of the Chamber. But I think it is very encouraging that she is the Minister responding, because she does engage with these sort of debates and gives genuine answers responding to the points that are made in debate. So I think that this debate will be the better for her, being the Minister responding to it. And the honourable gentleman, the member for Strangford, has tabled what is a hugely important debate, because as he does so often in this House, there are many issues that are important but rarely get brought before the House, and yet we are the poorer for that not happening. So he's brought before us today something that might not otherwise have been tabled, but I think it is right that we are debating this issue. I'd also take the opportunity, if I may, to pay tribute to the honourable member, the member for Battersea, who isn't here today but has done a lot in the House to highlight this issue, and in her work, if I recall, with the APPG, and it would be wrong not to recognise that in the debate today. And of course to the RNIB for their work around this issue. All of those have contributed to raising awareness. And I should say at the outset that before I was made a minister, first of all in 2018, I was actually the vice chairman of the APPG on optical health for a period. So it's an issue I took an interest in back then. It crossed my radar on a number of occasions when I was a health minister, and it is an issue of significant importance, because while, as the honourable gentleman has set out, and I think the honourable gentleman, the member for Leicester South, set out, while individual rare conditions may be exactly that, with them occurring rarely or with few people getting them, collectively rare conditions account for a significant number of the conditions that individuals in this country have. And as, again, the honourable gentleman for Leicester South, who brought his background and his knowledge to bear on this subject, as he does when speaking about these matters, he highlighted the potentially devastating impact that optical diseases and retinal diseases and illnesses can have on someone's life. You just have to look at a few years ago. I managed to do something very trivial, which is somehow, heaven knows why, I managed to get a tree branch right across my eye which cut it and recovered fully. But I just knew for those few weeks while I was being treated for it, I will just briefly, while I was having the treatment and the cream, just the impact that, which in the great scheme of things, if untreated it may not have been trivial, but treated it was dealt with, just the impact that had on my daily life. So you can only just begin to imagine, as the honourable gentleman enunciated, the impact that some of these conditions have had. Of course, I'll give way to him.
Thank you. The Minister shouldn't feel so bad. That is the most common condition. The gardening is the most dangerous sport that one can do for eye health. And I have met people who have lost their sight from a branch scratching their cornea. So I wouldn't feel bad. It's the most common reason for eye trauma.
Well, in which case, I remain very grateful to the clinicians at the Leicester Royal Infirmary, and he will be pleased to know that on that, my wife would share his view about the dangers of gardening, particularly when I'm doing it. And as honourable and right honourable members can see, I'm increasingly reliant upon my reading glasses and my regular eye tests at Specsavers. Other opticians are available. But it is a reminder, exactly as the Honourable Member Strangford said, of the importance of this issue and the ability of an eye test, a regular eye test, not only to detect optical and retinal illnesses earlier, but also potentially to spot some other more serious conditions undirectly related to eye health, but of very great significance. Yeah, of course.
But I had two occasions of two constituents in my constituent in Orange who come to me one day, one of them with a complaint of really sore head, terrible colour. I says, I've been to the doctor, yes. I says, go and see your optician. On both occasions, just to make this point, they both had tumours. One of them was the size of a golf ball, the other one was growing. And when they got to the A&E at the Ulster Hospital, they were retained and they had an emergency operation. So what the optician was able to do was to diagnose early on with just a simple interview, an appointment, and it can save the eyesight and save the life as well.
Well, I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman. He's absolutely right. He and I have known each other since we came to this house, and he's read my mind, because I was about to say that in some circumstances there are examples of life-threatening tumours being detected through a regular eye test and a referral onwards, which has saved people's life. Now, as he set out, the estimated 25,000 or so people in the UK affected by inherited retinal diseases. The most common, as the Honourable Member for Leicester South said, and this is where I will mispronounce it, retinitis pigmentosa. Pentosa, thank you. I'm grateful to the Honourable Gentleman. I'm sure his bill will be in the post as a professional. But these can lead to a gradual loss of vision and can have potentially devastating effects. Yeah, of course I'll give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
Thank you very much. Give way to the Honourable Gentleman. So my wife is... thank you very much. My wife lives with retinitis pigmentosa. We've been together for 30 years, and over that time I've seen how that degenerative eye disease can actually change the way that we live, the way that we adapt, the way that we care for each other as a family. And whilst I think there's a massive place that we've talked about today for innovation and for research and for access to investigation for treatment, I think actually once she got her white cane, which she has now, that was a symbol for everybody else to notice that she had a condition, and people are much more attentive to her for that reason. But it's that period before where I think there is a point where we can make a bit of an intervention around inclusion and education. And I just wonder if the Honourable Gentleman agrees with me just around the fact that there is a period where we could do something to identify to others that somebody has a condition, but you might not be able to see it yourself, to help them.
I'm grateful to the Honourable Gentleman, and he's absolutely right, because one of the one of the key themes I think that has come through in this debate is the importance of awareness raising, of societal understanding, and it's something that again I co-chaired the APPG on dementia before I was a minister, and again a large part of the challenge we face as society, I think we're making progress, is raising societal and awareness of understanding of hidden conditions or things that might not be immediately apparent to people, particularly before there is a diagnosis and some sort of either visual signs such as a white cane or other measures. So I think he's absolutely right. And I think that this debate today will be playing an important role in helping, in a small way potentially, but helping raise awareness of these conditions. The next challenge, of course, as was alluded to, is diagnosis, and what more can be done to deliver early diagnosis and indeed better diagnosis. And I think, again, there is progress, real progress being made, but as so often in these spaces, there is more we can do. And it's with this debate, I would say it's a pleasure to be taking part in it, because sometimes in this House we will to and fro across the dispatch box or across the chamber, and I hazard to suspect that we may see a fair degree of consensus in this debate today about where we are, what progress we've made, but what more needs to be done. And I think that is all to the good. The next challenge, of course, when there is a diagnosis, has been alluded to, is treatment and what is possible in the way of treatment. In 2019, as has been said, NICE recommended the use of a new gene therapy called, and this is where again I'm actually going to use the abbreviation, the Luxturna approach, rather than using the technical term. I'm sure the Honourable Gentleman for Leicester South would be able to correct me, but recommended to treat inherited retinal dystrophies that are caused by a specific type of gene mutation. We are seeing this real progress, type of virus vector-based gene therapy. So there is progress being made, and there are potential new treatments we've heard about, including further gene and stem cell therapies, artificial vision therapies, electrical stimulation therapies, and indeed the use of growth factors and retinal transplants. Now, I've sat where the Minister is sitting now, and there is always a challenge in this space that one of the great successes of our country is the innovation and the new and rapid development of new therapies and new treatments, but there must always be that process and that balance to make sure they're safe, make sure they're effective, and indeed to recognise that there is no infinite pot of money for any government, and we've got to always strike that appropriate balance. So I do recognise that. In August 2024, Retina Today, respected journal, reported that there were currently over 30 gene therapies in development for the treatment of a range of retinal diseases. So I think we can look forward with a degree of cautious confidence to what is being done in this space. But then the challenge, of course, will always be how we translate those into effective, deployable and, if I'm being honest, affordable solutions for people who have these conditions. Similarly with artificial vision technologies, implanting microchips and similar. So I think there is reason for hope when it comes to treatment and research. Now, turning to the UK Rare Diseases Framework, which honourable members have spoken about. This was first published in January 2021, and there have been a number of action plans since February 22, with 16 actions February 23, May 24. And I was encouraged that in December of last year, the Minister's colleague, the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State, reaffirmed the government's commitment to the Rare Diseases Framework, and I'm encouraged that there is talk of that 2025 refresh, and I hope the Minister will be able to give a little bit more information on how she sees that playing out when she speaks. I think progress was made with those action plans, but if we are being completely honest, perhaps not as much progress in the past as we might have wished. There are a range of external factors that cause that, but there is an opportunity, I think, now for the new government to continue to take this forward, and from what I see and hear, they are committed to and willing to do that, which I think is deeply, deeply encouraging. In respect of NICE, I've alluded to the challenges that are faced always. Their role is a difficult one. They have to assess the clinical and cost effectiveness of medicines and treatments. It is a challenging role they have, because if someone is in need of a treatment, is desperate for a treatment, obviously they will want to see those treatments trialled. So NICE's job of striking that balance is a very hard one, and I think we do need to recognise the difficult job that they do. They use the highly specialised technology HST programme, which, as we've heard, the proposed refinements are being proposed to the routing criteria, including the disease is ultra-rare and debilitating, definition having a point prevalence of 1 in 50,000 or less in England, is lifelong after diagnosis with current treatment, has an exceptional negative impact and burden on people with the disease. The aim is to encourage innovation and research, a good thing which I think we could all support, that technology should be limited to the population in its licensed indication, no more than 300 people in England are eligible for the technology for its licensed indication, and the technology is not an individualised medicine, and that there are no other effective treatment options. Now, I understand that I think just before Christmas, NICE launched a public consultation ahead of updating the HST eligibility criteria, due to report later this year, I think, in fact, following its closure on the 30th of this month. So I say, as I look at the date on my watch now, I think colleagues and individuals have about a week or so in which to make any representations or put any views into that consultation, should they wish. I hope that the Minister will be able to update honourable and right honourable members on each of those aspects, where she sees us going with diagnosis, where she sees us going with treatment and access treatment, and where she sees that research in the long term going. I should say as well that I pay tribute, and I hope he will forgive me for not mentioning it, to the Honourable Member for Torbay, who brings to this subject, as he does in this chamber, as he does in the main chamber, and as he has done in debates since he has arrived in this House, not limited to this subject, but he brings a measured, thoughtful and knowledgeable approach to his speeches and to his role, and I think the House is the better for those contributions. I would conclude by saying, Dame Siobhan, if I may, once again, I am deeply grateful to the Honourable Gentleman, the Member for Strangford, for bringing this hugely important debate. This House is often at its best when it doesn't debate the toings and froings that we all put in our election leaflets and everything else, but where we debate matters where there is a degree of consensus, where there are genuine points of interest, and where we can make a real difference for people. And that's one of the reasons why I was very keen, despite being the Shadow Secretary of State, to come and speak in this debate today, but also, of course, the pleasure of serving opposite the Minister once again for old times' sake. So I very much look forward to what she has to say, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak, Dame Shaw.
Minister.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I want to start by thanking the Honourable Member for Strangford for securing this debate on such an important issue, and other members for their contributions. Both the Shadow Secretary of State and myself, I think, are covering for other colleagues this afternoon. So you can imagine my joy when actual experts walked into the room this afternoon. Both the Honourable Member for Leicester South and Torbay, has been said, do bring great personal and professional expertise to this debate. So it was joyful to see them come in. Good to hear from my friend, the Honourable Member for Doncaster East and Isle of Axholme, and the experience that he brings through his wife experience, really valuable. And I was surprised also that the Honourable Member for Battersea, who has been such a champion both in her personal experience and in this place since she came in. But I understand it's her birthday today, so I hope she's having a good time. But she again has brought great expertise to this place. So I'm going to do my best to answer the questions. I've been billed very highly by the Honourable Member for Strangford, so I'm grateful for that. But if I don't, I think I have, but if I don't, obviously my honourable friend for Gorton and Denton will write on anything that's outstanding. I'd also like to take time to acknowledge the experiences of those living with rare inherited retinal diseases and their families, who I know will be paying attention to this debate today. And I want to pay tribute to all of those who work tirelessly to raise awareness of rare conditions and bring about change. Now, so while rare diseases are individually rare, their impacts are far-reaching. 1 in 17 people will be affected by a rare condition over their lifetime. That's around 3.5 million people in the United Kingdom. And rare inherited retinal diseases affect around, as the Honourable Gentleman for Strangford said, 25,000 people in the UK, and collectively represent a leading cause of sight loss in working-age adults. So we recognise the impact these conditions have on patients, family and the wider society, and the need for innovative approaches to tackle these changes. The Government is committed to improving the lives of people with rare conditions, and the Honourable Member for Torbay used that quote about providing opportunity, support and determination for people. The UK Rare Diseases Framework, as has been discussed, outlines 4 priorities to achieve this aim: helping patients get a final diagnosis faster, increasing awareness of rare diseases among healthcare professionals, better coordination of care, and improving access to specialist care, treatment and drugs. In England, our annual Rare Diseases Action Plan sets out the steps we're taking to meet these priorities, and we continue to make progress and are working to finalise our next England Action Plan for publication, as has been asked by the Honourable Gentleman opposite, for publication this year. It is vital that NHS patients with rare diseases are able to access innovative new treatment as these become available. This includes those with progressive retinal diseases, where early intervention is crucial to preserve sight. Under England's actions plans, NICE, the MHRA and NHS England are working to understand and address the barriers to access for rare diseases treatment. Now, the Honourable Gentleman asked a number of questions about NICE's appraisal, which I hope I will cover. They do a difficult job in my view, at NICE, and we do think it is appropriate for the evaluation of treatments for rare diseases. NICE recommended 84% for rare diseases evaluated through its standard technology appraisal programme in 23-24. This is comparable to its approval rate for medicines for more common conditions. These treatments are now available for the treatment of NHS patients. NICE also operates a separate, highly specialised technology programme for the evaluation of a handful of medicines for very rare diseases each year, which recognises the challenges of bringing treatments for very rare diseases to market. NICE recommended the gene therapy Luxturna for a type of inherited retinal dystrophy through this route. One of the recipients of this groundbreaking therapy on the NHS has spoken of his gratitude for the positive effects of the treatment, not just on his vision, but on confidence and independence. NICE is also in the process of reviewing the criteria for routing topics to its highly specialised technologies programme, as the Honourable Gentleman asked. This review will ensure that future routing decisions are more transparent, consistent, efficient and predictable. And as part of this process, NICE has launched a public consultation on its progress, and I really would encourage the rare diseases community and those interested from this place to continue to engage with this process. Research offers a way to accelerate access to new and innovative treatments. Through the National Institute for Health and Care Research, this government supports rare diseases research. There are currently 8 active research projects on rare retinal diseases funded by NIHR with a combined value of over £6 million. The NIHR also invests in infrastructure support and deliver research studies. The Moorfields Biomedical Research Centre, which is dedicated solely to vision research, has made significant strides in the field of rare retinal diseases. By harnessing genomic data, the BRC has developed effective treatments, including gene replacement therapies for inherited retinal disorders. The NIHR is also working closely with commercial companies to bring new medicines and technology to patients. To connect people living with rare diseases to innovative treatments and sources of support, we need to diagnose these conditions as early as possible. Now, the UK is a world leader in genomic diagnosis. Patients in England have access to whole genome sequencing on the NHS. Advances in genomics mean new causes of rare retinal disease are being found every year. And as part of Genomic England's Generation Study, we are harnessing the power of genomic sequencing to screen for over 200 rare genetic conditions that can be treated in the NHS in early childhood to improve outcomes for babies and their families. This includes rare retinal diseases RPE65, associated Leber congenital amaurosis, which can be treated with Luxturna. A central mission of this government is to build a health and care system fit for the future, and the 10-year health plan will ensure a better health service for everyone, regardless of condition or service area. The plan will focus on our 3 shifts for a modern NHS, moving from hospital to community, analogue to digital and sickness to prevention, and all 3 offer opportunities to improve time to diagnosis and care for people living with rare retinal conditions. The shift from analogue to digital will enable innovative uses of data to improve diagnosis and measure treatment outcomes, while NHS Ocular Genetics Services' use of video consultations continues to widen patient access to specialist advice in keeping with the shift from hospital to community. Although many rare diseases are not preventable, early diagnosis, as we've heard this afternoon, can lead to timely interventions that improve health outcomes. If I just take a moment to outline the treatment pathway for rare retinal diseases. I am thankful to the role played by high street optometrists in helping identify patients with sight-threatening conditions, some of them here today. There is good availability of NHS sight testing services, with over 12 million free NHS sight tests provided to eligible groups annually, including children, individuals aged 60 and over, and those on income-related benefits. Optometrists are required to refer any patient showing signs of injury, disease or abnormality, and ICBs have been asked to ensure there are direct referral pathways in place between community optometry and secondary care. As the Honourable Gentleman for Leicester South said, the eyes are also the gateway into other health conditions. That's a very important role. As one of the busiest outpatient specialties with one of the largest waiting lists, we know that ophthalmology is facing huge challenges, and we are working hard about how we can help build that capacity. NHS England is looking at how digital connectivity could improve the triage of patients referred between primary and secondary care. This would allow for images to be shared, and specialist advice and guidance could help keep patients in the community where possible. We recognise the importance of access to both emotional and practical supports, especially where treatment may not be available. A diagnosis of sight loss will have a profound impact on any individual who will be at increased risk of stress, anxiety and depression. NHS England's Patient Support Toolkit for Eye Care Commissioners and Providers aims to ensure patients with ophthalmic conditions or sight loss are supported throughout their care journey. The RNIB Patient Support Pathway aims to strengthen this and ensure support and guidance is available to patients from their first eye care appointment through to having a confirmed diagnosis, right the way through to living well with their condition. And I know the work of the APPG and honourable members in this place will help with some of that to give those people a very powerful voice. As we work towards building a healthcare service fit for the future, it's vital that people living with rare diseases are not left behind. With the UK Rare Diseases Framework coming to an end in 2026, we will look to build on progress made over the past 5 years, as the spokesperson for the opposition has said, working with colleagues in the devolved administrations, as highlighted by the Honourable Member for Strangford. We have commissioned an evaluation of England's rare diseases action plans through NIHR, and we will also be undertaking engagement this year to inform future policy decisions. This government is deeply committed to working across the health and social care system and with rare diseases community to improve the lives of those living with rare conditions. So I would really like to once again thank the Honourable Member for Strangford for raising this important matter. It is good to have high interest and expertise and experience in this place. And we want to work with colleagues here and to the rare disease community. We thank them for their valuable ongoing engagement with us to bring about meaningful change.
The question is that the House has considered innovation in the field of rare retinal disease. As many are of that opinion, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, I denied the member for Strangford his right to sum up. I apologise.
No, I understand that, and I know we're all anxious to get away, and so am I. By the way, I have a plane to catch, you know. But can I just say a big thank you to everyone who took part, to the Honourable Member for Leicester South, who brought those personal stories of the mum who was expecting and didn't realise it's just going to end up with this. The young boy who wanted to be a rugby star, and unfortunately that wasn't going to happen. Those are reminders of what this disease does, and I thank him for that. Also, I didn't know it, by the way, your knowledge as an optometrist, I didn't know that was what you did before you come here. I now know it. I thank you for that. And the Minister was right in saying the talent and information that was brought to the Chamber is something that has helped us to move forward. The gene therapy advances, the eyes are the window to your health. And again, for that significant contribution, thank you. The Honourable Member for Doncaster East brought his own personal story of his wife and what they live with every day, and that's the stories that are that sometimes are forgotten, and stories that you bring you're doing something for someone, but it's the personal stories, how the rest of the family are affected. The Honourable Member for Turbay, and the Shadow Minister's right. The Honourable Member for Turbay brings more things to this chamber outside of health issues as well, and on the front row there, when he speaks, we all take knowledge, because we're always reminded by that wee bell that rings that he's here. You know, we all know that. So thank you very much for that as well, and for your knowledge. Your knowledge was so important. My friend, the Shadow Minister, we've been together in many debates over the years. He's obviously a very important interest in the subject matter. He's right to thank the Honourable Lady for Battersea, and I should have done that. Apologise for not doing so, but he's right. She has been a leader and a champion. Always use word, but it is the right word for the lady. When it comes to eye trauma, I didn't know the most dangerous place for anybody with their eyes was to work in the garden. That was news to me. My endeavours with the chainsaw are ones that I wouldn't like to talk about, but they were scary, but I have survived. And he also mentioned about regular eye tests, early diagnosis, treatment, research, affordable solutions, the UK Rare Diseases Network, and the degree of concern. And can I thank the Minister very much? And I know it may come easy sometimes, or maybe not so easy, but the Honourable Lady does always endeavour to give a response on the issues, whether it's the Honourable Lady's direct responsibility or not. And today I believe that she's done that, if I can say that, Dame Siobhan. She referred to the this is a far-reaching issue. Government's committed to rare diseases framework, the diagnosis, faster diagnosis, also that new treatment, Luxturna, I think was what it was, and right away the Honourable Lady was able to tell us that some people who have got that and are feeling the benefits. So those are the pluses that come out of these debates. Research and development, government's committed. The UK are a leader in genomics. Referred to the treatment pathway, and also referred to those with rare retinal disease are not left behind. That's the message I think that we all appreciate. And today that debate has done that. Today the Minister has done it well. Thank you.
I apologise again to the Honourable Member.
No,
the question is that this House has considered innovation in the field of rare retinal disease. As many are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order, order. The sitting stands adjourned.